Is that the nature of the war on terror? Is that what we've so far seen in relation to the treatment of prisoners and attitudes amongst ordinary people, amongst the media and amongst politicians? Is that it? No. It's because after the lawyers put through the case of Binyan Mohammed and the issues regarding his detention and the complicity of the British government and intelligence agencies in his torture was going to come to light, the Americans threatened. The Americans threatened the British and said, if you let this information come to light, we will stop cooperating with you. We will stop cooperating with you in intelligence-related matters. So there goes the special relationship between Britain and America. That's why it is huge news today. That's why. Not because they care about the individual Binyan Mohammed or any of the others. Now, I'm not going to speak too much longer about my experiences in Guantanamo. Rather, I've detailed all of that in a book that I've written that you can get at the back later on, and I do urge you to buy it. I think that if you don't, I'll send the boys around. But what I will do after I introduce the next speaker, who's Omar Deghayes, who served in Guantanamo Bay as a detainee for 6 years and was released in 2007, is that myself and Chris will converse about our time in Guantanamo Bay and about our reactions to this tour. Today is the last day of the tour. So we are privileged, and I think you are privileged in a sense for having at least Chris over here to speak about these issues. And we feel extremely privileged, to be honest, not least because of this meager turnout that we've seen. And we are actually, I am quite taken aback, to be honest. I'm fascinated, and I'm really happy to see such a huge turnout of people. It is a fitting close to our tour. And I really hope that we can give you something and you can take something from us by the end of it. And I'll now pass you over to Omar. Thank you very much.
First, I would like to say, like my friend, thank you very much for your turnout and coming here in this large number. Secondly, also to thank those of you who worked so hard and campaigned so hard when we were locked up in Guantanamo Bay for our release and for the closure, and still campaigning for closure of that international torture place that is called Guantanamo Bay, and many, many other detention places, secret places which are even worse, a lot worse than Guantanamo Bay. Those places like those places in Bagram, places in Kandahar we went through, and the torture there, like anyone who was, like Moazzam will tell you, or anyone who went through those kind of places will tell you that you're subjected to the treatment there is a lot worse than what goes on in Guantanamo. And there are many like those in Bagram and Kandahar. There's some in Jordan, Jaffa, which is run and supervised and overlooked by the CIA and run by the CIA. And only 10 detainees are there, top security 10 detainees are there. And those who guard this place and go have permission to access to that place are those who are cleared by the CIA, and there are certain officials designated and are able to enter those places. Others, like you heard, Binyan was subjected to in Morocco, which is run by the CIA again, run for the CIA. Some in Pakistan, where we were first abducted and tortured in Pakistan. And today, there's more than 20 in Pakistan, run by the CIA. Not Pakistani, without the Pakistani ones, which are the government run already, but these are run for the CIA, supervised by CIA. There are more than 20, or about 20, to do with the war against terror. There are some in Poland, some in Romania, in Thailand, in the island which is governed by the British, the San Garcias, in Indian Ocean, an island in the Indian Ocean where there is a base where people are subjected to torture. Ladies and gentlemen, what I would like to say tonight is to speak to you about how it feels, just to speak about how it feels to be inside those barbed wires and mention some of the things that you'd be subjected to if you were locked up in Guantanamo Bay. People who are in Guantanamo Bay you wake up to the possibility of death. People have died in Guantanamo Bay. More than 4 people that I witnessed died. Yasser and Ali Saleh and the man Al-Attab and Al-Amil. 5 detainees we witnessed who died inside Guantanamo Bay from the treatment of Guantanamo Bay. There are others that died in Bagram that Moazzam Begg has witnessed. There are others in Khost detention center, where another friend of mine has witnessed, and so on. There are more than 100, according to Thomas Friedman of the New York Times. There are more than 100 who died in detention centers throughout. Detention centers, according to the New York Times writer. And he says, all these hundreds, the US claim that they have died from heart attack. He said, heart attack, this is not only immoral, this is not only politically stupid, but also gravely immoral. This is, there's a videotape which speaks about a man who Moazzam witnessed, who Taxi to the Dark Side, who many of you might have seen, a documentary speaking about a person who was a taxi driver in Afghanistan, and then he was brought to Bagram base and tortured there, beaten until he died. Him and another 3 or 4. And the man who did this, the guards who did this, they have interviews in this documentary which had an Oscar because of how good the documentary was. These people the guards who did this act, not only that, instead of being reprimanded or being disciplined or something like that, what happened to him is that he went and elevated, they ranked him to become an interrogator, and then went on to do the same thing to Abu Ghraib prison, where he tortured people and sexually abused female prisoners in Iran. The same happened with the general, because some people might think that these are just individuals acting from their own will or from their own overzealous performance or something like that. But knowing that Bush himself and Dick Cheney and the Minister of Defense have signed papers to legalize torture, which does not, as long as they say as the stretch of imagination, as long as that torture doesn't cause death or loss of organs or loss of parts of a human being, then this is lawful inside Guantanamo. They signed to those papers, and this is public, and a man by the name of Wilkerson who worked in their offices have said this in public and noted which notes they've signed. This is a public knowledge. The general himself, General Miller, who used to work in Guantanamo Bay, one of the worst generals, as Chris would tell you, even for the guards, he used to remind them all the time when they came into cells and attacked, like James Yeast wrote in his book, one officer who was in Guantanamo Bay wrote, he used to go around and remind them before they go to the cells, don't forget September 11. These are the people who committed September 11. Even though that most of those people in Guantanamo Bay were never picked up from anywhere like New York or anywhere in the United States. Most of them were picked up from Gambia, from Bosnia, as far as Bosnia, Gambia, Indonesia, Africa, some places in Europe, and so on. This man, General Miller, was ranked, moved from what he did. He was taken the work he did, the awful actions that he committed in Guantanamo Bay, he was to be moved afterwards because they thought he was successful into subjugating people to humiliation, breaking many people down. Many people lost their minds. Many people, they have a big block, Chris will tell you about, a large block which contains 50 cells that is filled with people, detainees there who've lost their mind. People who have gone crazy inside the detention camp are moved to this block, an echo block, where everyone there is very badly in need of care. This man was moved to Abu Ghraib, and he used to go around in Abu Ghraib and he used to say, we must Guantanamize Abu Ghraib prison. And this is how things were moving from upwards to downwards, not the opposite. It was not an action of individuals, but rather was a system of this kind of barbaric act and criminal offenses. People who live in Guantanamo Bay are subjected to, they could wake up to loss of limbs. Some people were tortured and beaten up so badly that they lost their eyes, lost their sights. Many, like